Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and another episode of Joe on Joe Illustrated this week. That's right, we're talking more comic books. And yes, we are still getting ready for the big Cobra Convergence episode. If you're not familiar with big picture what Cobra Convergence is, you really need to. It is an annual event organized by great friend of the community, Hooded Cobra Commander 788, and it's like a social takeover of all the participating channels of YouTubers and podcasters. I think a couple of years ago was the first time they brought in podcasters, but I think it's been going on. This is their 6th year doing it, and yeah, the idea is that like you get Yojo June, so it's like Cobra takes over in July kind of a thing. I think that's the rationale behind it. But I'm honored to partake. I was very honored to be asked last time, and that's when with the pandemic, God, was that 3 years ago now, or when we did Cold Slither? That was like my first contribution to it. And this year, I'm real excited. I'm very happy with the results that we're getting in for our new special, the new Joe on Joe special. All I want to do is talk about it, so I'm going to change subjects. But again, like I've said, I'm getting voices in. I just cast a friend of mine to play one of the roles. That's right. I gave you a little hint. I cast someone to play a role. That means it's a scripted piece. And she's a super talent, and I adore working with her, and I'm so excited to have her on board for this. So that's going to be great. Yeah, so it's exciting. All the pieces are falling into place. I got a lot of work to do between now and then, but we got plenty of time, and I'm just excited. I'm excited. I can't wait to talk about it with you guys, because it is two topics that I will talk about endlessly, so on, and just forever. And one of them, of course, is G.I. Joe. So I hope everyone had a great Memorial Day. As far as Joe goes, there were two things last week. One, I don't know if it was Memorial Day centric, but I hope everyone caught the, maybe it was just like a Yojo June thing, but Hasbro Pulse was running a sale where if you buy over $75, you get 40% off your order, which is great. And that's that's a nice savings. So I know I bought, it's funny because most of the stuff I've already purchased, but I bought I doubled up on two things. I bought a fresh Snake Eyes and Timber, because I love my boy Snake Eyes and I love Timber, and I wanted to display them. So they're coming out of the box as soon as I get them. And then I bought a fresh Snake Eyes Storm Shadow retro carded ones. And again, those are to open and the other ones are to display. So that was exciting, but that was a good savings deal if anyone caught that. That popped up real quick last week. I don't know if it's still going, but check out Hasbro Pulse if you hear this. I'm not sure if it's still going. The other thing that was happening, and I thought I took advantage of it. I'm not going to say Renegade Studios did a wonderful job with the checkout process of confirming, and I get it from a retailer's perspective. I understand that not everything is easy to make possible as far as visibility to the customer. So I don't mean this as a knock, but they were doing something where if you ordered certain items, I think they were going to send you some kind of bonus swag thing. I wasn't exactly sure what the bonus swag thing was. But I know that the expansion pack for their G.I. Joe trading card game was the collectible card game was part of the thing. So I pulled the trigger and bought that from them. But I don't know if I got the bonus pack. So they were doing something G.I. Joe related. And I'm I was going to buy that pack anyway. So I just pulled the trigger hoping that I get whatever bonus they were offering. And I'm not even sure what bonus they were offering, what the bonus they were offering was. So, then that's the kind of hard data and factual information that you come to the Joe and Joe podcast for. I don't know what I ordered. I don't know when I'm going to get what I ordered. I don't know if I qualified for the bonus, but boy, was I excited, because when I hit buy, it said G.I. Joe. That's the truth. That's the absolute truth of it. The other exciting news this week is we're doing another episode of the Saturday Morning Adventures, guys. Yeah, this week we're going to take a hiatus from Real American Hero, and we're jumping into G.I. Joe Saturday Morning Adventures issue number 3. This came out when I was on a trip myself. I was out of town, so I had a backlog of recording. So I did not get a chance to get to this until this last week. So I'm excited to know. I believe it came out 3 weeks ago, and we're going to review it. And then certainly when 4 comes out, we'll get to that probably the week it comes out. So this is good. So this is exciting. So in keeping with that, when we do the newer books, I typically don't do.
You were saying?
Because if you want to see what books are on the shelf, the same month that this G.I. Joe issue is, you should walk down to your local comic shop, your LCS, and you should say, hey, what are the new books this week? But I know that there's been asks for like kind of the books that I'm reading. And so, so I'll talk about some of the books that I'm looking forward to this summer off the top of my head. I'm looking forward to Dark Crisis. And here's why. I like me a good Crisis event. I do like DC. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with it. And I'm curious to see how it's going to end. I'm not necessarily clamoring for the story, because the story of what seems to be setting up in the story of, just in general, Crisis stories involve universes collapsing and, timelines merging and multiple Earths becoming one and things like that. And that, that goes back to, well, really, all the way to like Crisis on Earth 1, the old school JLA, JSA crossover stuff, obviously in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and, but that's usually what Crisis C's are about. And so I'm assuming that's what this is going to be about. Maybe dealing with the dark multiverse or something along those lines. So I'm not necessarily excited about that, because we've had a deluge of those stories in the last few years. So if anyone's listening, I'm good. Like, I'm good with those stories. I'm also not super keen on making Pariah a bad guy. It looks like very likely in this stuff, usually like the front man ends up not being the actual bad guy. Like he ends up being a puppet of somebody. So, hold your breath on that one. So we'll wait to see his Pariah being puppeted by some other giant cosmic force. I have absolutely no idea. I haven't read it yet. I haven't even gotten through the prelude to Dark Crisis, which dropped last week. I believe the actual Dark Crisis 1 drops, when you're listening to this, drops today, Wednesday, the 8th. I believe that's when it drops. So I haven't read that yet. But everything so far is pointing to, and in the free comic book day, it's pointing to Pariah from the original Crisis. And it's like in Infinite Crisis, we made, the Lex Luthor bad and Superboy bad. And we finally killed off Golden Age Superman and Lois. So now we're making Pariah bad. And I think Harbinger, she was always kind of half bad, half good. Like she was always like she was a paw of Anti-Monitor, but I think Harbinger took her turn in the I'm bad guy wheel. So it's like all the original kind of quasi cosmic good guys from the original Crisis have now all been turned bad, and so it's Pariah's turn to actually be the force of being a bad guy. But anyway, we'll see how the story plays out. So like that stuff doesn't excite me, but just line wide in general, I'm looking forward to seeing what DC does next. DC has been in very much I wouldn't call it a tailspin, but I definitely wouldn't call it a period of growth. They've needed some direction for quite a while, basically since the deal left. I didn't like the idea that they were putting out the 5G stuff. When I heard about that, I was not a fan of it. I know they're incorporating some of the ideas into it now, and like on a whole, some of the ideas seem fine and good because it's also being implemented alongside the actual characters we know and love. They're not replacing people per se. Like Superman is Kal-El is still there. They just have him off on Warworld doing some stuff while his son fills in, those kinds of things. But the actual full scale replacement that they were positing for the early stages of 5G was not a fan of that idea. So, things like that. Wally West is back. And so anyway, I'm interested in seeing what DC does as a line. So Dark Crisis has me interested. The other book I'm interested in right now is the Thor Hulk crossover. And this is the Donny Cates crossover. It's a Banner of Hulk. I think it's called Banner of Hulk, like Banner of Thor. Sorry. Banner and Thor involved in the one. Anyway, Donny Cates writing both books. His Thor has been good. It's been, it's been good. It's not, I feel like it's treading a lot of the same ground that Jason Aaron did. And then his Hulk has been, it's only 7 issues in, so it's not a lot of Hulk there to discuss. But his Hulk is frankly confusing, like literally confusing. I don't understand what's happening. I don't understand is the actual physically is Bruce Banner driving around in a robot version of Hulk, or is just Bruce Banner's psyche in a body, and the psyche of the Hulk is in that weapon room, that pain room, that drive the engine room, I guess, that drives the Hulk. Like, I literally don't understand it, and I don't think that helps. Hulk is a very physical creature, even in the Immortal Hulk, which is absolutely the best Hulk story they've put out in a long time. Even in Immortal Hulk, with dealing with all this body horror and metaphysical stuff and heaven and hell, there was always a physical component to it. You know, he would go to hell and he'd have his adventure, but when he'd come back from hell, he would be massively deformed. You know, like you could tell what physically was. I literally don't understand what's happening in Hulk, like what his physical adventure is. So with that in mind, I'm curious as to this crossover, if it like kind of puts both books, kind of writes the sales on both books. Yeah, that's my take on that. Donny Cates, a talented writer, but I got my eye on him, and I'm enjoying his crossover book. Crossover, I think, is pretty good. Radiant Black is always a fun book. Friend Kyle Higgins was in the shop last week. We were talking about Radiant Black. That's an enjoyable book. If you like Spider-Man, and if you like Spider-Man and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, you should be reading Radiant Black. If you like Spider-Man but kind of never really cared for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, you also should be reading Radiant Black, because he found a way to make you care for a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers style group. Sort of. I mean, it's not a 1-for-1, but it's that style of, like, there's multiple people with kind of multicolored, the same outfits that do similar things, and they get together and fight people. It was subtle, because first I thought it was a solo book. Oh yeah, it's actually really good. And then all of a sudden he introduces these other color radiant people, and I was like, you got me to enjoy a book that's essentially about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I hate you for that, because I am not a fan. But he's a really good writer, and he's really talented. So check out Radiant Black. Another book that is on my radar, I haven't read it yet, but I picked it up last week, and I absolutely enjoyed Vincent Price, Elvira, Dave Amiot. I know you were on the fence on that one, but David Avalone is doing his follow-up to that, which is like Elvira in Horrorland. And, you know, I can't say I've read Elvira comics before this stuff, but I really liked the Vincent Price stuff. I enjoyed the tongue-in-cheekness of it, and so this one is Elvira traipsing through horror films, and I haven't read the first one. It's got a Psycho cover, so I'm assuming it's Psycho, but that might just be a cover. But yeah, I'm interested, and he's a great writer, and he's a talented dude, talented writer, so I'm gonna pick it up for that reason. But I did really enjoy the Vincent Price stuff, so you should get out there and support that. Not into any X books. I'm reading them, but I'm not into them. The X-Men are adrift in a sea of garbage right now. I'm just so not interested in what the X-Men are doing. The big Avengers crossover. That's what I wanted to talk about. It's the X-Men Avengers Eternals crossover. So I'll be reading this because whatever, Marvel, whatever. Shut up. But like, when you include the Eternals, I'm not interested. I'm not. I'm sorry. I've never been interested. I'm not interested. So now we got an X-Men Eternals Avengers crossover. I don't know what it'll be, but I think it's being written. Am I correct in saying it's being written by Jason Aaron? It's called Judgment Day. I think whoever the creative team is, I know I enjoy their stuff. So that could be good. And what it could be is a chance to see the X-Men as a team doing X-Men style stuff that I actually enjoy, instead of just sitting at a table, staring at each other's navels, talking about plants and, botany and trade routes, which I could care less about. Seriously, the next I walk into the X-Men offices and I look for every script that starts at that stupid table, and I throw that script in the garbage and I say, go read an X-Men book and come back and tell me when you're ready to write one, because this is my new podcast. Why the X-Men are unreadable right now. Page after page after page of people telling you how important their choices are in the High Council or the Quiet Council or the Sitting Council or the Super Duper Secret Council. It's supposed to be an adventure book of characters punching bad guys in the face and fighting for a world that hates and fears them, not people trying to stump for a city council vote on whether the new zoning restrictions on the island of Krakoa are going to come to pass. Wow, do I not care. And don't even get me started on how much I do not care about you colonizing Mars or the people on Araco. Stop it. All of it is garbage. All of it. All of it. That's all I'm here to say. Not that I have an opinion on that.
You were saying?
And that's where you were saying in the on the shelves today. Yeah, so we're gonna jump in here. We're gonna jump in. Oh, before we do, hit me up on social. What do you guys think of the X-Men books? Are you guys as down on them as I am? Because boy, am I not high on them. Let me know. Hit me up on social media at Joe on Joe Pod. That's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You guys know how to find me. You can send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com. Let me know what you're reading these days. That's always interesting. I love getting good recommendations. I'm realizing that my pull list is actually getting smaller and smaller. Less and less books are appealing to me. It's probably normal because, I'm in my mid 40s. So, I'm not going to, that's not the complaint, but it is less and less books. I'm reading less and less these days, which is good though, because then that frees up my comic money to try other things. So I want to know what other things are you guys enjoying and check those out. And while you're on the internet, please rate and review me on any podcatcher, and then go over and subscribe to our great sponsor, the Movies in a Meal podcast, for all your movie needs.
Listeners, I know what you need in your life. You need more podcasts, and you also love movies. So why not do a podcast that's about not one movie, it's about not two movies, it's about 3 movies and a meal. I'm talking the Movies and a Meal podcast. This show is great. It's brought to you by Keith, Brad, and Ben, and each week they bring a new movie to the table, which they all discuss as a group. And it's not, your highfalutin movies. It's What We Do in the Shadows, The Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Out of Sight. It's Bad Education, Ghost Rider, and A View to a Kill. It's X-Men Last Stand, Queen Sugar, The Mandalorian, and Major League 2. They are a lot of fun to listen to. You guys know Ben. It's our friend Ben Pensarga. He was a guest on Joe and Joe. In fact, Ben was the very first remote guest that I ever had on this podcast, so he's always got a special place in my heart. I'm really digging this. I just started listening to it last week. It is a lot of fun. They bring a guest in. The guest, I listened to their Heathers episode. They were joined by Kelly, and she went in depth on her favorite movie, which was Heathers, and it made me want to go watch Heathers to watch with them. I really dig it. So guys, find them out there at Movies and a Meal, Twitter, Instagram. Their website is moviesandameal.podbean.com. They put out 1 episode a week. Give them a listen, guys. Support them. Let them know Joe on Joe sent you. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It is quite entertaining. And now back to the show.
All right, now it's time.
Now, mass is ready.
In this case, the genie is ready, because the genie is out of the bottle, everybody. It's G.I. Joe Saturday Morning Adventures, issue number 3. Rousing fun issue. Great covers, multiple covers, both are great. The one I've got in front of me is the cover A, which shows the Terrordrome with the genie behind it, and you've got Cutter and Shipwreck heading towards a beach with some Dreadnoks and Cobra Commander, Destro, Baroness, things like that. Traditional, good cover. Cover B is also really great, also very traditional. I feel like they might have been listening. I'm not saying to me, but they might also agree with us that for these cartoon inspired comic books, I just want to make sure I said that right, that the covers the more they reflect the actual cartoons, the better a selling point it is, because the cover B is also Sunbow design version, and it's got the zombie, it's got the Genie on it, and Spirit and Duke and the back of Destro and all that stuff. Like, it's just a good looking action adventure thing. Now, I don't know if that is is that B cover? Does that carry over from cover to cover? It looks like it does. Haven't been paying attention to that. And then when you go to the back of the book, they usually have the other covers. And I like the other covers. I think for something like this that is so genre specific, I think the more successful one is the one that reminds the reader that this book is about the cartoon. So you get to the Will Mugino cover with Cullen Davis doing the colors and Mugino doing the Mugino? Pardon me, Will, for the pronunciation on that, doing the artwork. And he's drawn, from our favorites, drawn from Cold Slither. It's after the Joes beat Cold Slither, and they're playing in their rock band. Although there is the one of Cobra's weapons in the back going. Is that the mass device? Anyway, but it's G.I. Joe playing in a rock band with the girls, tambourine and Scarlet and keyboards and rock and roll and Footloose on guitar and bass, and then Shipwreck. It's a very fun image. Don't get me wrong, I like it a lot. But it and yes, it certainly says cartoon, but it doesn't say animated series as much as these other two. That's what I'm trying to say. So I like it. I mean, I like the bold colors. They've figured out how to capture the look of the animated show. And it works.
Yo, Joe!
So this is a page that doesn't work for me. So okay. Saturday Morning Adventures, written by Eric Burnham, art by Dan Schoening. Luis Antonio Delgado is the colorist. Neil Utake is the letterer. Tom Waltz, group editor. Riley Farmer, associate editor. Diana Davis, friend of the show, research specialist. She's great. And overall, broad strokes, it's a great issue. I really do like it. But like, this is where you get into something that my brain goes like, oh, this, in a comic book, this feels like wasted space. But on a cartoon, you could see how this image, I'm talking about the one with Scarlet standing over Mainframe. It's funny, you get a scene with Scarlet and Mainframe in there. I'm not even joking. Make a mental note, ladies and gentlemen. A month from now, you might understand why this is so funny to me. But Scarlet and Mainframe in a scene, you could see this being like a pan-in shot, starts at the wide and shows them in the in the communications room, and then it's just the camera kind of cuts into Mainframe and what what he's triangulating on or whatever. But in the static field of comic books, like, this is just a lot of wasted space to me, And again, we're doing a comic book that's emulating a different form, so it's understandable. But this does feel like something. Now, I wonder if there may have been some confusion in the production process. I'm not saying I have any insight into this, but this open space on top is perfect if you were going to put things like the header, the caption box, the name of the story, or the creators, like all that would fit perfectly in this. If this were an issue of Real American Hero, that's where it would slide. But that's on the inside cover, all that information. So what we get is we just get a lot of blank space on this page. So I don't love that. Having said that, I love the way the characters look, the shading, everything throughout this whole book about the way they look and the way they match the Sunbow look is perfection.
Yo, Joe!
And Mainframe has triangulated Cobra's new headquarters. And according to Scarlet, it's near Guam. And so she's going to have to contact other Joe teams that are already out in the field. And this is where we meet, she gets in contact with Flint and Quick Kick. Quick Kick takes a bit of a starring role in this issue, and I'm all for that. He's actually leading up the team. And the dialogue they have for him is just note perfect. But this page is just basically the narrative page to launch what's going to happen here. And that's where she's saying, we need you guys to go to Cobra headquarters to stop. We found where they are. Go get them.
Yo, Joe!
and this is the bit of dialogue that I loved on this next page. We're quick kick and a supporting cast whose call signs all start with S. We're on it, boss. Like that's a kind of pseudo breaking the fourth wall. Like he knows he's, he thinks he's in a. It's like he is in a cartoon or but he thinks he's in a Hollywood production, and so he comments on it like it's a like he's a blogger. Like that's kind of always been Quick Kick's thing. Where in the middle of an action fight, he'll narrate it, like it's a commercial. Because remember, that's where they found him doing the was it Fudgies, the ice cream commercial. So that's the Quick Kick vibe, and I love it. And they get that across in this in a couple places, and I think that's really, really good. She also introduced, says Mainframe, you're coming along with us, and this is neat. I don't, not that I remember. I don't remember Mainframe being like either afraid of flying or, I don't want to say agoraphobic, but like, do I have to go out in the field? I like that they're giving that to him. I don't remember if that was part of the show. That's not in my brain for being a character trait of his, but I like that they did that. Because why not? Why not take the opportunity to grow a character? Because everyone's going to be different.
Yo, Joe!
So get those talking heads out of the way. Now let's cut to the action. And here we are on that island outside of Guam. And once again, Duke finds himself in a Coliseum of Doom with Cobra Commander at the helm. And he even mentions it. Like, like he's... he says something like, we've done this. Oh, that's the next page. We've done this dance before. So he's acknowledging that he's been captive. He's been here before. He's been your, slave in the fighting pits before, which is awesome. And Duke's doing a little bit of narrative lifting for us here. He says, if I remember, he says, so you have a genie, which is funny because that's just like, he's like, so, okay, you got a genie. Great. Like he's not surprised to see an actual real genie giving Cobra Commander the power, right? But he says, there's only 3 wishes, and so he's trying to goad Cobra Commander into making a mistake. The genie agrees with Duke, and Cobra Commander claims that he's already strategized with this limitation in mind. And then we get a quick shot of all the Dreadnoks in the audience. We got Zarana, and we've got Xandar. He needed the money. Monkey Wrench, Mindbender's in with him. Who else is that? Scarface? That is Scarface, everybody. That's awesome. Also, Toy Master, right? The toy guy. He's sitting behind Xandar. And then Thrasher, of course. But yeah, the toy guy. He's Toy Master, I think his name was, right? He's in the audience. That's a fun cameo. I like that a lot. And then Scarface, the not Scarface from the comic book Scarface, but Scarface from one of the miniseries, that Cobra Soldier with the scar on his face. I think they were always kind of meant to be different dudes, I believe.
Yo, Joe!
So Duke and these 2 gladiators, they come out, and Duke's starting to fight them, but it's quickly like, we know Duke's not going to lose to a couple of chumps. Let's bring out a Fatal Fluffy. And here we go, an actual Fatal Fluffy. God bless him. Now this is something I know which series was it? The G.I. Joe series. It wasn't received very well recently. The one, I forget how we're calling it, the name of this, but it's the one where they brought Fatal Fluffies back and kind of the real continuity. I thought that was awesome. I thought using the Fatal Fluffies in that regard was great. I think more Fatal Fluffies as part of like Cobra's arsenal of plans, I think is good. The fact that they were never really used in the in the Hama stuff, because obviously that was really from the cartoon and he wasn't interested in that. He's never really watched that. That makes sense that he wouldn't use it. But the Fatal Fluffers are such a fun gag, play off of Tribbles that grow up to be these monsters. I think that's such a fun gag. I like seeing them used here. I hope there's, some form of it in the future of G.I. Joe, wherever G.I. Joe lands. I think it's an arsenal piece that always brings character to Cobra.
Yo, Joe!
And Duke's response of like me and my big mouth saying, he opened his mouth, this is all you're going to send to me. I think that's a perfect written animated. This whole thing is really written very well for the animated, for an animation piece. It's not overwritten. It's all the lines of dialogue are snappy. They get to the point. There's not a lot of to contrast it like you read a comic book with, let's say, Brian Bendis written kind of a thing. He's got a lot of dialogue that actually might be kind of naturalistic, of people overlapping and characters, kind of having intro conversations like, what are you talking about? I just said Superman was right there. Superman who? Clark Kent. Were we calling him Clark? Are we calling him Soup? No, we were calling him Clark. Let's just call him Clark. Like that kind of, like back and forth banter, which might be a little more real, but in a comic page can really slow things down. And definitely in animation, you wouldn't go there. It's a lot cleaner. My understanding is, and that's what you get here with these books, with these Saturday morning adventure stuff, where all the lines are very crisp and to the point, and that's what we're getting here. So we've got a shark arriving on this Cobra Island, and it is Quick Kick, and it's Shipwreck, and it's Spirit, and it's Snake Eyes. It's the S Brigade. And I like that he's talking about he had a speech prepared. It's some of my best work. You'd laugh, you'd cry, you'd beg for an encore. That's that kind of like hyper real, aware dialogue that Quick Kick always had on the show, and I appreciate him having it here. That's interrupted. Oh, and don't let me forget, Freedom and Polly also in attendance.
Yo, Joe!
Never forget the birds. Fan of the birds. And we've got Copperhead, Firefly, and Storm Shadow, and a cadre of Cobra soldiers. They're standing at the beach waiting for them. And we get an attack. Now we get something that we rarely got on the TV show. We rarely got a Snake Eyes Storm Shadow fight in animated form. In the Sunbow animated series. We really didn't. It was usually Storm Shadow versus Spirit. And while Spirit is here, Spirit is taking a Copperhead. Shipwreck is taking on all the goons, and Quick Kick and Firefly go at it. I think it's all fair fights, if you ask this guy. And I love seeing this version of Snake Eyes go after Storm Shadow. This is the version of Snake Eyes that I always drew when I was a kid. It was the one based on version 2, but it was also a little more animated, a little more streamlined. I drew the heck out of that Snake Eyes, and it feels so good to see that in action. A lot of times Snake Eyes can get very much bogged down in the action figure world, and just all the pouches and the more realistic, armor look, which is, cool and good. But in this case, it's just this streamlined purple bodysuit with weapons strapped on, and he's ready to kill you. There's something appealing about that just looks like this guy's a lunatic. Versus the more military version is, oh, this guy's just a badass. Like, this guy's kitted out, and he's a really good soldier. You see this dude, the purple ninja version of Snake Eyes, and you think that guy is a lunatic, and I don't want him. I don't want to go near that dude. And there's something really appealing about it.
Yo, Joe!
So we've got Duke and the Fluffy. They're going at it. Fluffy's having his way with these other two combatants. He's just really having his way with them. Destro and the Baroness, they're wagering on who will or who won't win. And these play out like really well done storyboards. You get the right shots and the right perspectives. They're filling up a lot of the frame. Remember when we were talking about the frames that had those giant bats? A lot of the frame would be wasted. Whether they've adjusted it or whether, just because we don't have that giant scale perspective issue that they're able to fill the frame. But this stuff feels better, especially compared to that first page.
Yo, Joe!
And Duke's going at it. He's going to go get that Fatal Fluffy, but he just does some I don't know, kung fu or gymnastics roll, and he gets past him. And he grabs a net. We know they like to fight with nets, because I feel like that was very Saturday morning friendly, or rather midweek friendly, because we know this wasn't actually on Saturday morning.
Yo, Joe!
And now he's riding the Fatal Fluffy. Like, he's got it wrapped around the Fluffy's neck, and he's like steering him towards Cobra Commander, and he has him crash into the Cobra Commander's dais, and he knocks out the Fluffy. So Duke actually beats the Fatal Fluffy, which is nice. I was expecting him to kind of go stalemate until something else, broke free and got him free, but they actually have him beating the Fluffy, and I like that a lot.
Yo, Joe!
So now Cobra Commander, this is the moment in the story when Cobra Commander usually does something silly and dumb. And true to form, that is what he does. So whether he has victory in his hand, he'll call in and he'll taunt the Joes, and in the background of the video there'll be a clue as to his whereabouts. In this case, he's got the genie, he's got one wish left, and he thinks he's gotten it all figured out. But he's so put off by Duke. Duke's still his prisoner. There's no reason for Cobra Commander to overreact and make his move right now. There really isn't. But he decides, he's so put off by Duke, and this is, you got to figure this is a little bit of Duke's plan to get Cobra Commander mad enough, because he says, "Come make me pay for it, Snakeface." Like, he challenges him to a fight. Cobra Commander says, "My final wish, I demand that all members of the G.I. Joe become true loyal members of Cobra." Now the genie says, "I told you the rules of wishes. I cannot do that." So Cobra Commander replies, "With such rules are for lesser men. You have the power to do what I ask, to end the conflict between Cobra and G.I. Joe so that I may go on to my rightful place as ruler of the world. And I demand you grant my wish." So, I feel like a lawyer could have a field day with this, because the genie certainly takes a very loose interpretation of this command. So let's talk genie rules. What does he actually say? Because you could tell where this is going, right? All genie stories go this way. It never ends with the guy actually being in charge. It always goes poorly, and the person always phrases it incorrectly. So first he says that he can't force the Joes to work for Cobra. That goes back to the rules that he laid out back in, I believe, issue 1, when he said, I can't, I think he said something like brainwash people, or have people act contrary to their own wills, right? I could just do stuff. But if I said you go kill someone, you wouldn't do it because you're not a murderer. Unless you're out there listening to Joe and Joe and you are a murderer. If so, turn yourself in. I don't want to even know about it. Don't even call me. Don't tell me. Don't text me. Don't at Joe and Joe pod me. Don't confess to murder. Just go to the police. So that's the rule that he's invoking there. But then Cobra Commander here kind of turns it into a wish when he says, "I demand you grant my wish." But his actual wish is, end the conflict between Cobra and G.I. Joe so that I may go on to my rightful place as ruler of the world. That part, I feel like that's part of the wish. It's not, he didn't just say end the conflict, period. He says, so that I may. And that's the part, I feel like the genie's splitting such a fine hair here, where he's just going to, and we're going to get to what he does here, he's just going to end the conflict. If it goes poorly for Cobra, as we're going to see as this issue progresses, doesn't guarantee that Cobra Commander is going to get his wish, which is go on to my rightful place as ruler of the world. So that's where I feel like a Better Call Saul could have an idea here.
Yo, Joe!
So before he answers that, we cut into the fight, and it's Quick Kick and Firefly. And Quick Kick he's delivering some great lines of dialogue, commenting on Firefly's fighting form, etc. Firefly wants to fight with the one that doesn't speak, doesn't talk. This is maddening. That's funny. What's even funnier is that because the storyline we're reading right now, we're covering over when we do our Real American Hero issues, where they made Firefly a ninja master. And in this case, he's kind of rejecting all the ninja stuff here. And it's just I just want to fight a dude. Please. And then we get to this bottom panel where Shipwreck says, Firefly's, he might be scum of the earth, but he's got a point. And Spirit says, you understand the irony in you saying someone talks too much. And Shipwreck says, but I'm pure Navy. Spirit, talking is one of the 4 things we do best. Oh, is that hold on one second. One of the 4 things the Navy does best. Is that a thing? Navy's core attributes. There's 4 Navy core attributes: initiative, accountability, integrity, and toughness. That is directly from Navy.military. So the 4 core attributes of the Navy are initiative, accountability, integrity, and toughness. I don't know how, and that's not one of the 4 things. It's not talking. Initiative, accountability, integrity, and toughness. So I feel like Shipwreck is selling us a bill of goods here.
Yo, Joe!
So now we get a nice page. This is a fun page. This would be a great page to have like on your wall for real. Like the original art to this page would be pretty good. Although I think it's probably all digital, but you know what I'm saying. It's Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow squaring off Sunbow-style. Fighting in the air, swords clashing. You get a little bit of stuff going on in the background, but to be honest, I don't even need that. Like you could have taken Quick Kick out of that middle picture, and at the bottom it makes sense because the bottom is narratively it's pulling you out of this fierce clash of wills that they're in these other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 panels, these jagged panels. Like it's pulling you out of there. Now, the one thing I would have done here is I would have made these panels the Irishikage logo. I would have put dividers in there, even like artificial too. Not necessarily in story dividers, but like there's the black jagged lines. I would have cross-hashed it so that it makes the Irishikage logo and just done that. I think that would have made this scene even cooler. I wonder if they played around with that and it just didn't pop, like it didn't really flow. I'm not complaining about this page. That would be an extra level here because that's kind of what they're doing. I feel like that is what they're doing, and maybe just cluttered things up. Maybe it didn't look right. So I'd give them the benefit of the doubt there, but this is a really great page.
Yo, Joe!
And what stopped them from fighting, everybody from fighting really, is a giant purple beam that emanates from Cobra, the terror drone. And it's Cobra's and Joe's. They're stopped. They're just staring at this beam and they're like, what is happening? Storm Shadow finds his way into this precarious branch 20 feet in the air, which is hilarious because I know they would do that on the show. That's absolutely where he would perch, and somehow he found himself there again. Most of the Cobras run, including Firefly, and the Joes aren't. The Joes are sticking around. Storm Shadow runs too, but the Joes, they know that Duke's in there, so they got to go towards the light.
Yo, Joe!
And now we're back with the Genie, and this is where we go back to the wish stuff. He says, I warned you. You could have wished for any number of things that your naked ambition clouded your mind. And the lamp is like floating around. Now remember, he used all 3 things in the lamp, so technically that means the lamp is up for grabs. And I believe that's what's happening here. I'm pretty sure that it's the Baroness realizing I can get the 3 wishes now. I'm going to make a move for the lamp, which she does, but it disappears before she can get to it. And the Genie says, I'm going to give you your wish for a chance to end the conflict. If you can take power, you'll deserve it, but you'll get no more help from me. I won't let any member of G.I. Joe or Cobra take the lamp from me until your differences are resolved. This, I don't understand how this is fulfilling Cobra Commander's wish. Where he's, if you can wield the power, then you can rule it. That's not his wish, Yo,
Joe!
Anyway, the Genie proceeds to go on, and speaking of which, and these next 2 pages are they're needed and they're fine and they're good and they get you to this final 2-page spread, which is great, which we're going to get to in a second. But it's a little padding. You could accomplish all this pretty quickly, but he just speaking of which, it's the wrap up. This is going into your final commercial break before the final moments, right, of the episode. If this were a 4-part series, obviously this is going into the big cliffhanger that you're going to start the next episode with. But I think, to be honest, I think these 4 issues play out better as just one episode of a show instead of an actual miniseries. But Duke disappears from the arena of doom, so it's arena of sport or whatever. And then we see on the island itself, they're near the water moccasin with Copperhead and Firefly and Storm Shadow. They disappear. They all turn like light blue and disappear. And then on the G.I. Joe transport, you see Beachhead, Scarlet, Mainframe, and Sci-Fi. They disappear.
Yo, Joe!
And he's in this top panel, Baroness and Destro's images are now disappeared as well. Cobra Commander is the only one left, and he says, and the Genie's like, now it can all begin. Cobra Commander's like, this is not what you asked for. And this is where he gets technical. He says, your words were, You have the power to end the conflict between G.I. Joe and Cobra. Let's go back to that. That's not what he said, though. He said, you have the power to do what I ask. Period. To end the conflict between Cobra and G.I. Joe. And here he's quoting Cobra Commander, but he's not quoting Cobra Commander exactly. He's saying your words were, you have the power to end the conflict between G.I. Joe and Cobra. And then you demanded I grant your wish. It's not my fault that you phrased it in such a way that gives me flexibility. And Cobra Commander says, but I wish for G.I. Joe to be under my control. First, you heard me. And he says, I told you there were limits to what I can do. You should have listened. But I'm giving you the chance you wanted, chance to destroy your enemy in battle. And Cobra Commander disappears, and he reappears in front of his soldiers, which is Destro, Mindbender, Zartan, some Dreadnoks, Tomac, Xamot, things like that. But this middle panel, though, is problematic because this is not what was said on the earlier page. And I wonder, is that on purpose? Is that kind of an editorial? Because I'm just saying, I'm putting this together. I'm making sure that's airtight because that is literally what this whole thing is hinging on. And we know genies are jerks. We know genies will weasel out of anything. But he's quoting, and you can go back 4 pages. That is not what was said. So I don't know what's going on there.
Yo, Joe!
And we get a awesome 2-page spread. And this is everything. This 2-page spread is like everything I ever wanted in a comic book when I was a kid. It's everything I ever wanted out of a G.I. Joe adventure, playing with the toys. I wasn't an army builder. I had like one soldier, one Cobra soldier, like literally one Cobra officer, I had the characters. It was all about the characters. It was all about people. Like I didn't even like when Vipers became de rigueur. I was out of collecting at the time, but I was okay with that because I would look and there's like all the quote unquote figures are just different kinds of generic Vipers. There were no more characters. And this page is everything. This page is all the characters. There's a Cobra, there's a Crimson Guardsman, Thrasher, Zorana, Xandar, Major Blood, Cobra Commander, Mindbot. It is literally all of them, and it's all the Joes from the cartoon. Ace, Doc, Beachhead, Leatherneck, Gung Ho, Freedom, Cover Girl, Spirit, Flint, Lady J, Alpine, Dial Tones in the back there, Low Lights involved, Bazooka, Roadblock, Rock and Roll. It is everybody. And they're all on both sides, and they're squaring off in a classic comic pose with the genie laughing in the middle. And so it says no master, not treachery, the other half of the battle. So that's knowing. So I think he's implying that knowing is, well, I don't know. Actually, I don't know. Because he says, Cobra Commander calls it treachery. And he says, no, not treachery. I think he's saying knowing, which is the other half of the battle, or that's half the battle, the other half of the battle. What are we saying here? Because he's saying he knew better than Cobra Commander. Anyway, the other half is fighting. So they're going to have to fight. And it's awesome. And it's great. Oh, and you got the giant bat in the background, of course. And this is it. This is it. This is what I like to see. I like to see the characters fighting the characters. That's what I like. Is when it's them versus generic soldiers, I'm not as big a fan. So I'm all for this comic.
Yo, Joe!
And then we get a fabulous, really good PSA at the back. Some little punk is shooting, little, what do you call those? Slingshots at like this neighbor cat that's just minding its own business, trying to be a nice cat. And this little serial killer in the making is laughing at it. And Law and Order show up, and Order's just gonna eat this kid's face. But Law says, Order and I don't like seeing people being cruel to animals. You should always show respect for animals, son. Order could have torn you apart. And he goes, now knowing's half the battle. He goes, but seriously, if I see you pelt anything else with that slingshot, our next conversation is going to be different. I've enjoyed these PSAs so much because they're always actual PSAs, but then there's an edge to them, and this edge is Order could have torn you apart. I love that. I think that's great. Really, 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 really enjoyable issue. I really liked it. Any kind of critique, nitpick, you know what that is? That's me filling airtime on my 45-minute show. Because I enjoy this. I want whatever happens with the Joe license. I want them to continue doing Sunbow stuff. I want them just to keep that universe alive. I think there's so much fun and so much good, so much fun stories you could tell with that, and just be not serialized, I guess, but episodic, and this issue, this happens, and then this crazy thing happens, and you can explore stuff but not have deep, heavy continuity. Yeah, I think it's good. I think there's always room for more of that, more of those kind of comic books. So, and certainly this one's flying off the shelf. It's selling out everywhere I'm seeing it. So I hope wherever that book, G.I. Joe itself, lands, I hope they keep this in mind, that this has been a successful experiment. So I'm looking forward to issue 4. And I hope everyone does well, and I hope everyone has a wonderful June. And we'll see you next week. Now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.